Hey there, comic book fans. I'm back from the comic shop again this week. Just arrived and hanging out my winter thermals again. What did I get? 5 comics this week? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 comics. A couple of True Believers and 3 from the pull list. So let's see what we got. Of course, we got War of the Realms. Comic shop news. Is anybody out there excited for War of the Realms? First Asgard, then Midgard. Now it's up to the Marvel Guard. I don't really know anyone who collects these giant event comics, but someone must. They keep making them, so I guess that's what I guess I can read what it's about in this one. We got some numbers of things that I actually dropped off. From like a comic shop news from like two weeks ago that had a bunch of the new True Believers that were coming out. So I clipped it out and highlighted the ones I wanted and dropped it off with my comic shop news, my comic shop today. I think it's going to be Avengers month for True Believers, and there was like some Avengers stuff. I didn't even know what it was. It's like, for $1 I'll try it. But new stuff here and there. Oh, and here's the SpiderMan comic. And I was just, I don't know if this Spider-Man comic is canceled now or not, because I just saw the letterer, the longtime letterer of this comic is Janice Chiang. She's been a letterer for forever at Marvel, and she's been lettering this comic strip for 10 years now or something. And I just saw on Facebook she posted something saying goodbye to the comic strip. So I don't know if they're canceling, because maybe they canceled this comic because Stan Lee. The way this comic was actually done was through Stan. It says Stan Lee and Alex Saviuk, but Stan Lee wasn't actually writing it anymore. But Stan Lee was actually in charge of the comic. It's amazing. He would, I forget who was writing it. I can't remember who was writing it now. But Stan Lee would actually he was actually the editor of this comic, even in his, through over all these years. So all the work would go through him. He'd give Alex Saviuk the boards. I forget, like I said, I can't remember who's writing it, but it's not actually Stan Lee. And, Stan Lee would deliver it to King Features, whoever syndicates it. So it's kind of funny that Stan Lee actually had something to do with this comic. So now that he has died, maybe they ended it. I'm not sure. I'm going to have to find that out. But Janice certainly isn't lettering it anymore. But yeah, comic shop news, all the comic shop news you need. And then True Believers. We have Captain Marvel, the Kree Skrull War. Is this was a Sal Buscema issue? I remember I haven't read this in a long time. The Kree Skrull War was before my time. I have a trade collection of it or something, and I haven't read it in a long. I just remember Neil Adams started it, but then when he left, it kind of lost all its momentum. It was like, it was okay, but my friend Rob, who was just at the comic shop, was complaining about this because he really doesn't like the Kree Skrull War. He was like, he's like, there was no Krees and Skrulls fighting at each other the whole time. It was just, we got to go find this, we got to go find that, we got to go find this. But I'll read it in the True Believers edition. Oh, by the way, well, first let me show you this other True Believers because it has to do with binary. This is X-Men 160 something. Matter of fact, I have the original issue of this, but now I've got a fresh new copy. Where is our X-Men 164 this is? Oh yeah, what was this? Avengers 90 something? Avengers 89, pardon me. This is the 160 Dave Cockrum, Bob Wyachek issues. Chris Claremont writing it. And speaking of Chris Claremont, it was the Marvel Captain Marvel #1 from last week. Had a backup story in it from Marvel Fanfare 23. It was like an early 80s backup story. I really enjoyed that backup story. It was binary. It started out as a poker game story, which they did a few of back in those days. The superheroes getting together for a poker game. But then it took an emotional turn when this is Carol Danvers in her binary form. She was binary at the time, and she showed back up to the poker game. She hadn't been on Earth in a while, and then Monica Rambeau, Captain Marvel, showed up, and she was like, Monica Rambeau, Captain Marvel? What does Marvel have to say about this? Because she didn't know that Marvel, Captain Marvel, had died. So then the story went on, was her dealing with, that's the first she'd heard that her friend of, I think she dated him too, of many, many years had died. And then there was this weird thing where she was intellectually upset about it. But since Rogue stole her powers, it stole her personality too. So she wasn't emotionally upset about it. She was missing a connection to Marvel that she thought she should have because she used to have it. It was really an interesting little short story about Binary dealing with the fact that the original Captain Marvel had died. So I'd never read that one before. I don't think I had, but I really enjoyed that in the True Believers from last week. Hopefully, I haven't read this one in a lot of years, but so hopefully I'll like that too. Then what do we have? Start with the new stuff. Monstrous. This is number 20. We got number 20 here. Issue 20, and last issue was all about this little fox, Pippa, what's her name? This little fox creature. It was her story. Oh, looks like we're back to the wolf's daughter character, whoever. But this is to explain Monstrous. Let's just say that it's high fantasy. There's lots of factions, humans, animaniacs, whatever they're called. What are the animal people, other people? There's straight up animal people. That's a straight up cat person. But the fox person kind of looks like a human, but isn't really. And of course, the old gods are there too. That's an old god something. And it's just this huge, epic, sprawling fantasy tale with what's her name, Marika, the she-wolf or something like that. She's daughter of the she-wolf. She's the main character who's got a connection to the old gods, and things are going through her, and it's all a mess, and big war started. Good stuff. Check yourself out some Monstrous. Speaking of big war starting, that must be the theme this week, because we've got East of West, number 41. Another East of West forgettable cover. But the big war has started in East of West, and they've been fighting each other. This takes place in an alternate future, I guess you'd call it. Who knows? Maybe it's our future. We don't know, but it's not. The United States is in different factions. We've got the South, the West, and the West is ruled by China because they invaded. There's Texas. There's the Northeast. There's Indian country in the middle of the country. And all these end-of-the-world prophecies are being fulfilled with the four horsemen. So all the humans are fighting each other, and the four horsemen are going around saying, we're going to end the world, this is what's going to happen. Random woman, there's all sorts of, some of the factions are like royal families. Some of the factions are as democratic as it gets in this world, and they're all kind of colluding with each other and fighting each other. Get a little sip of water here. Good stuff. So, I think this is winding down too. There's another one that's winding down soon. I don't know when it's going to end though, so I look forward to reading this issue. And what's not winding down is the Savage Dragon, issue 242. And it looks like Ant is back, shoving her butt in somebody's face. I think I think Eric Larson bought Ant from somebody, but then and Ant is kind of a real racy adult character. And then someone was doing an Ant series who he bought it from, or some weird thing going on. But then he said, you can have your Ant yourself and do it because it was too racy for Eric Larson or so. I don't remember. There was some story going on with Ant. But I guess Eric's using Ant himself in this story. Should be fun. It's always a superhero slugfest with Eric Larson. The stories can be adult or not. And there's always some backups in it. Let's get some strips in the back. And then oh, look, Spawn shows up in the backup story. So who knows when this is from. But, 242 issues later, I'm still enjoying Savage Dragon. It's one of the few comics that happens in real time too. So Savage Dragon, the original Savage Dragon grew to middle age and ended up dying, and this is his son who's in, how old is Malcolm now? He must be in his early 20s. I haven't even kept track in a while, but yeah, it's just the spectrum of Savage Dragon from 1 to 242 is really interesting, and it's really an accomplishment to be able to keep the comic going for that long, moving in real time, and all sorts of different things happening, and characters coming and going, and the world ended at least 3 times, 2 times I remember, and it's just a fun book. To me, the Savage Dragon and Eric Larson are kind of a lifetime Oscar achievement award. It's not, it's one of those people who they give the lifetime achievement award who's had a really long career and did really good stuff but never won an Oscar. That's kind of what the Savage Dragon is to me. At any given time, it's probably not one of the 5 best comics out there. But for 25 years, it's been in the top 10 or whatever. It's done well. And how many comics have put out, how many people put out a good comic for 25 years? That's insane. It doesn't happen. So that's what the Savage Dragon is to me. It's a lifetime achievement award winner. All right, there are the comics. I'll show you the art I got here. Well, look, I did 2 dreams of I colored these just this week. I don't know if I showed you the black and white or. This is my I don't know. She's quite devilish, and I call her a she just because to me she's a she, but it's really quite an androgynous figure. I like the way this one came out. For a strange red creature with green eyes, and this is once again I call this one a he. Could be he's a patchwork man. With all this patchwork color on him in a patchwork world, he's dreaming of things with his dream machine on his head. Dreams of things dreaming. So there you go. I like the way those both came out. I'm glad. Like that, the first dreams of things I showed you a few weeks ago, I wasn't too fond of. These ones, I'm back on track with them after doing all these giant ones. To get back on track doing these colored ones. All right. So you guys all have a good week out there.